Now let's get back to what America is doing in this process. On the one hand, Long Island's Nassau County banned face masks because of backlash to anti-genocide protests and general reactionary COVID garbage, and they just made their first arrest. An 18-year-old Latino kid, NYU, also came out with a statement saying that they're adding Zionism and Zionist into their hate speech. Zionist is now a protected class at NYU. College administrators spent summer break dreaming up new ways to squash Gaza protesters. New York University students who speak out against Zionism will now risk violating the school's non-discrimination policies. That's what America is doing. And yeah, I saw Mehdi Hasan's argument yesterday about the Bedouin Israeli citizen that Hamas had held captive for 10 months that was recently rescued yesterday. And I saw the exact opposite thing that he saw. To those who still make excuses for Hamas actions on October 7th, a reminder that Hamas has no problem taking even a Muslim Bedouin grandfather hostage and then refusing to release him. Hostage taking is a war crime. I don't really understand what argument he's trying to make here, but what I saw from that was that this is not sure I follow this line of argument. The point of the Palestinians have been making is that this is a political battle with religious dimensions, but not a religious battle wholly and entirely. Why would favoring an Arab Muslim make them somehow more consistent? Al-Qadi is an Israeli citizen. Therefore, his captivity is a bargaining chip to release Palestinian hostages in Israeli prisons who do not hold such citizenship. This isn't rocket science. The strategy is fairly obvious. Liberal identity politics do not factor into this. Exactly. Anyway, please stop linking me Facebook links, man. What are we doing? Speaking of college campuses, saw this online in New York City yesterday. Stop linking me Facebook links. I'm not going to click on it. Lawns that can't be used, benches that can't be sit on, foreign nations that aren't allowed to be criticized. Universities would rather sterilize their own campuses in the non-functional backdrops than have any kind of discussion about Israel. Welcome to NYU, class of 2029. I hope you don't want to sit outside, because here at NYU, these fenced-off benches are being guarded by 5 security guards, 3 union members, 2 subcontractors to protect them from your free speech. It's great. They are doing everything they can to stop any kind of public display, against Israel. They're like, nope, you cannot criticize this foreign nation that is currently doing a genocide. In terms of like combating against anti-genocide protests, it has straight up gotten worse than the last multiple cycles of student protests, whether it be against the Vietnam War, whether it be against the South African apartheid. It almost feels like those in positions of power learned from those lessons in terms of not losing that battle and now are doing this shit. I do think back to school fascism will backfire. Making it against the rules to sit on the lawn is kind of the thing that the dean from Animal House would do. Penn installed a monument to honor me and my confidants. We smiled. When Cesaire's imperial boomerang returns, they'll attempt to pay us to do speeches, and we'll say this too ain't reparations. No trespassing. All UPenn rules and policies apply. Events, demonstrations, rallies, protests, and large gatherings require prior university approval. Prohibited behavior includes overnight occupation of structures, amplified sound without prior university approval, possessions of weapons or hazardous materials. It's crazy. Where are all the free speech advocates now? A part of the reason, and I think a chatter also mentioned it, is that college campuses have become increasingly more financialized since the last time those protests occurred. And as financial institutions, they have a vested interest in the continuation of Israel's apartheid regime. So when students actually demand divestment, that actually eats away at their profit motive. That actually eats away at the endowments that they have that are massive financial vehicles for them. That is also another reason. McDonald's obviously would not sit around and allow people to protest eating beef, right? To them, this is an existential crisis, having their own students protest against these college campuses. Ironic, because on the other side, they try to educate this new class of incoming freshmen on certain key principles like genocide and being against such thing. I do not understand how we do not see as Americans where we are headed towards, what we are headed towards in terms of fascism. That is what is going on. It's not just about Muslims not being considered humans, because it might be Palestinian Americans today that are being effectively monitored. It might be those who are aligned with Palestinians that are monitored and their freedom of speech is removed. But there is no reason why, there is no guarantee that this will not extend to others. It already is being extended to others. Plenty of Jewish anti-Zionist protesters are also getting caught up in this. And as material conditions worsen for people, as you see more young men find themselves in the throes of right-wing radicalization, it feels quite a bit like 1930s Germany up in these parts. Palestinian students at Columbia University are hosting a Palestine 101 teaching at a local park off campus. NYPD cars are circling the park. Groups of police officers are surveilling students wearing keffiyehs just for teaching about Palestinian culture. More police budgets, more police surveillance, more unique ways of stopping people from hurting the feelings of a foreign nation state and its plans to wipe out an entire population of people. Incredible stuff overall. Anyway, let's look at the operations in the West Bank. We're going to get back to that in a second. Remember though, nearly 8 in 10 Democrats say the U.S. should not send weapons to Israel. Okay, 77% say don't send weapons to Israel as of June. It is incredible that these calls that literally have a positive electoral benefit in this upcoming election, these calls are just simply a mechanism to get Israel to abide by the ceasefire proposal that we put forward months ago. This divergence is insane to me. It is such a phenomenal display of anti-democratic principles baked into our system when you have so many people that are like, dude, what are you doing? You said you wanted to do this, the ceasefire. Here's a way to do the ceasefire. You won't do it. Democracy is not supposed to simply be a shield. It's not supposed to be a shield. It's supposed to be not in theory, something that you claim to be a part of. Just like freedom of speech is not supposed to be like this. It's not just something you say to be like, look how awesome we are, and then violate it on a daily basis. What have we become? I mean, we were this way, but I think it's becoming glaringly obvious what we are now. Israeli occupation forces, by the way, have launched a large-scale invasion of the West Bank with thousands of soldiers. The operation is scheduled to last for weeks and is the largest since Operation Defensive Shield. Dude, if Reddit went down permanently, my life would be improved, okay? Like, straight up. My life would have a noticeable improvement. But I thought you don't go on Reddit? Yeah, I don't. But all my haters do. Reddit is responsible for some of the worst aspects of unimaginable pro-genocide sentiment. It's not because I'm distracted and I go on it a lot. I never go on it at all.
In the West Bank, a major operation by Israeli troops accompanied by drones attacking from the air, leaving at least 10 Palestinians dead, and adding to the more than 600 killed since October the 7th. Israel's foreign minister says it's essential to shut down a new front for terrorism here, alongside those in Gaza and Lebanon. Masoud Najjar says he was injured in an explosion which killed 2 of his sons.
My wife asked me what happened. I told her and asked her to check up on our children on the roof. She found 3 of them there. 2 of them, may they rest in peace. The other was injured.
Hundreds of troops are believed to be involved. The Israeli army says it's responding to attacks by a mixture of armed groups, including Hamas, though they've denied a claim by Israel's foreign minister that residents may be evacuated from their homes. Nevertheless, Israeli bulldozers have been destroying streets in the city of Tulkarm. They say it's to remove roadside bombs, but they're also sending a warning that this land, occupied by Israel since 1967, could be turned into another Gaza if Israeli security requires it. This Palestinian only just escaped a sniper's bullet. Elsewhere in the city of Jenin, many are...
By the way, that person survived, but I was worried here. I mean, you can see it.
escaped a sniper's bullet. Elsewhere in the city of Jenin, many are obeying an Israeli curfew and staying indoors. Hamas says
Normie family members of mine said that they have Jewish people around them that constantly talk about rising anti-Semitism, so they won't even let me talk about the problems with Zionism or even what a pogrom is. How do you approach that with people around you? I mean, it's true. Anti-Semitism is rising. Anti-Semitism is unacceptable. It is a form of bigotry that oftentimes leads people to agree with fascist narratives. So you don't have to like counter that. It's correct. Anti-Semitism is absolutely rising all around. One of the major factors that plays into anti-Semitism rising all around is that Israel is not the moral democratic nation that the American media has represented it as. Anti-Semitism is rising because of Israel's actions being paired up with Judaism. For a lot of average people who have associations or like in an offhanded remark will like be significantly more susceptible to anti-Semitic sentiment, like Jews control the media or whatever, things that we consider in here to be obviously non-starters. A lot of Americans believe that shit already, or they're primed to believe that shit. So when Israel does this stuff and says we're doing this for Judaism, and then Jake Tapper turns around and says Israel has to defend itself and it's actually for Judaism, and you're fucking anti-Semitic for criticizing it, then yeah, people who are already primed to be anti-Semitic who haven't fucking read into it are going to be like, oh dude, I see it now. Like it's 100% Jews control the media. Like of course people are going to think that way. That's why I like spend every goddamn day combating anti-Semitism and also engaging in anti-Zionism at the same time. There's no reason that you have to. You are a Nazi. Israel is not Judaism. Yep, you are a Nazi. Just saying the truth. Chat not gonna like that one. Yeah, you already made up your mind. You think this chat is anti-Semitic and that you also called someone a Nazi for saying Israel is not Judaism. It's not. You have been told a lie. Yeah, it's legitimately on the rise. One of the dumb apolitical guys in my work dropped the honestly, I get it now. I can see why everyone hates the Jews in reference to Israel influence on U.S. politics. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That is 100% a sentiment that is like increasingly becoming more commonplace. That's not a fucking joke. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, but the primary culprit is Nazism, not anti-Zionism in my experience. No, of course not. Of course the primary culprit is fascists and Nazis and anti-Semites themselves who are taking advantage of the underlying anti-Semitic tendencies that people might have and then pairing that up with like valid criticisms of Israel. All they need to do is just point to what the going on and be like, see, I told you Jews control the media. See, I told you Jews control key aspects of American society, when it has nothing to do with Judaism whatsoever. But on the other side, you have Israel saying, no, this has everything to do with Judaism. Every Palestinian we're killing because of Judaism, because Jews love doing that. That's what they're saying. That's how people see it. I don't have any power in trying to combat against this narrative when that is what is being telegraphed from everything that people see and think in the media.
6 of its fighters were killed here, and that Israel's actions are a deliberate provocation, along with plans to build new Jewish settlements. The Israelis say this is only the first stage of their operation, which is believed to be one of the biggest in years.
Still don't understand why. Oh, yeah, I mean, this is fucking insane. But yeah, Rafah, Israeli soldiers in Rafah looting and wearing women's underwear and dresses belonging to displaced or killed Palestinian women. Like, they do this shit all the time. I don't understand what the they're doing. It's in Han Yunis, not Rafah, apparently. But like, it makes no damn sense. Like, what the are they doing? Like, this is so unimaginably weird. Like, this is just such freak shit, dude. It's freaky ass shit. It's just like reflexively flexing the power that you have over a population of people that you're dominating militarily. That's what they're doing. But it's just like, it doesn't make sense. How do you get those guys to be normal again, by the way? That's the other side of this. Those are like relatively young Israelis, you know? Relatively young Israelis. How do you get them to be normal again? How do you get them to participate in normal society? It's not. It's over. Would you agree that anti-Semites are Zionists to some extent? Yes, of course I would. They're fascists of a different flavor. That's it. Anti-Semites literally want what Israel is doing, but for white people, what they consider to be white people. That is a, you know, changeable, that is something that can change. I mean, Richard Spencer, prominent American neo-Nazi, straight up will be like, yeah, we want to do Israel, but for whites.
I mean, you could say that I am a white Zionist. As an Israeli Israeli citizen, someone who understands your identity, who has a sense of nationhood and peoplehood and the history and of an experience of the Jewish people, you should respect someone like me. I care about my people. I want us to have a secure homeland that's for us and ourselves, just like you want a secure homeland in Israel.
That's why the conversation around criticizing Israel so quickly turns into this like weird dynamic, because anti-Semites say Israel is doing this for Judaism. All Jews are responsible for Israel's actions, but so do the Zionists. They say the same shit. Like, most real people I know cannot differentiate between Israel and the Jews. So yeah, kind of a shitty aspect for American Jews. So this, most are anti-Zionist and are being looked at as part of this as it continues to escalate, especially for our demographic, for our age group. Under the age of 35, there's a shit ton of anti-Zionist Jews. As a diaspora Jew and not a Zionist, watching Israel and Zionists do genocide is wild, because we are both on the dinner plate of white supremacy. If Palestinians are eradicated, we're back on the menu. Genocide is always wrong, but it's like, it's not even self-preservation in the long run. Yeah, it's crazy.
Gaza, putting really a connection between those two areas and a potential Israeli reaction to those areas. Now, we've also heard from the Ministry of Health.
Richard Spencer was confronted by a Zionist, and his retort was that he sees Israel as a model for a white ethno-state, and the Zionists had no answer to that. Yeah, Richard Spencer is openly talked about how he wants to do Israel, but for white people. He is a neo-Nazi.
In the West Bank, that at least 2 hospitals have been blocked by the Israeli military, saying that there have been mounds of dirt, for example, pushed towards those areas. We have seen and obtained video that would back up some of those claims. We've seen some very heavy Israeli military assets in those areas, bulldozers, for example, pushing up infrastructure and pavements and roads in those areas. And we are still getting information and video coming in showing the extent of this operation. But what we're hearing from the Israeli side is that they are...
Yeah, what we're hearing from the Israeli side is they are, again, engaging in a siege and an offensive campaign in an occupied territory that they are illegally occupying, okay, is that they're just doing an anti-terror operation. It's bullshit, dude.
Trying to
and this isn't Gaza, chat. This is West Bank. This is the other side of the equation. This is like this is territory that Israel illegally occupies, where there's, you know, the hostages aren't there. There's no there's no Hamas governance in the West Bank.
Iranian terrorist infrastructure, as they put it, in this area. From the Palestinian side, and certainly from those in Jenin, one of the key areas that has been targeted, certainly from the governor, they are concerned about access to hospitals, about hundreds within those hospitals itself, given that they're claiming that Israel has restricted all access there. We heard from the Red Crescent Society as well, saying that their manoeuvring of ambulances has been heavily restricted by the Israeli military as well. Max, Christina?
If this war expands from Gaza to the West Bank, that's obviously a big escalation of that war, isn't it? Does Israel have the resources for that?
The right. Yeah, that's the real problem here. Does Israel have enough weapons to bomb the West Bank and Gaza at the same time? Yeah, I mean, I saw this tweet from Felix. People don't stop acting like this, making a mass rapist concentration camp guard a media star until they're too afraid to try it again for a while. I hope that happens soon, or else the world is stuck with a nuclear-armed version of the North Fox Island pedophile ring. This is literally that guy Shitrich, or however you say his last name, I don't know. He is a Sedei Teiman concentration camp prison guard that was detained for being one of the main who raped a Palestinian to death. This is like down to the Hamas are doing mass on Israeli women narratives. Like every single thing has fallen flat and has been just pure projection. I said this on like October 10. I talked about how there has always been a long and recorded history of mass of Palestinians under Israeli detention facilities. And at the time, people were looking at me like I'm crazy. People tried to say, oh, well, here's a study conducted by someone that shows that Israelis are so racist that they actually don't Palestinians, that they actually Palestinians less than other kinds of have occurred. That's what they said. Adamir is a Palestinian human rights group that was declared a terrorist organization for actively monitoring these sorts of instances of under detention, Israeli detention. They shut it off they shut off this flow of information in every avenue. If you go back and listen to my conversations, whether it be with Ethan on leftovers or whether it be from like October 10, early October, you'll see how much of the things that I have said, maybe you had an issue with them at the time because you were uninitiated and you were unfamiliar with this process, but how much of the things that I've said that you now agree with, not because you were in here the entire time, by the way, but perhaps because you have now come to recognize it. It's not like I had the gift of foresight. I was simply reiterating things that I know about the Palestinian plight before October 7th. It's not foresight. Yeah, it's hindsight.
I mean, I think they certainly have the resources. It would be a significant escalation. The fact that the foreign minister is connecting the two in such a blatant way on X, formerly known as Twitter, is significant in itself, mentioning potential evacuation of Palestinian residents, something that we have been seeing for months in Gaza and something we are still seeing. The Gaza residents have been moved sometimes a dozen times from area to area as the Israeli military tries to clear out civilians, they say, and target Hamas militants that are within that area or tunnels that are within that area. Now, if that were to be replicated in the West Bank, it would be very significant, very devastating. When you're talking about these refugee camps in Nur Shams, for example, in Jenin, they are densely populated, a very similar situation to what we see in Gaza, where it would be difficult for them to be evacuated. And of course, there would be a concern if this operation were to be significantly increased by the Israelis, that there would be civilian casualties within that as well. Now, at this point, the Israeli military not specifying how wide this operation is or how long it will go on for, but suffice to say it is larger than we have seen in some time.
Paula, thank you very much. Just to add to Paula's excellent reporting there, that we have had a response from Hamas in the last hour calling for a general mobilization and escalation of confrontation in response to the Israeli operations in the West Bank, although it is hard to see how that retaliation would actually happen given the scale of what has been occurring in the West Bank, as Paula has outlined.
Yeah, Israel's foreign minister, this is the White House columnist, Niall Stanaj at The Hill. Israel's foreign minister calling for the temporary evacuation of Palestinian residents in the West Bank. Temporary is an interesting word choice in a territory Israel's occupied for 57 years. Completely illegal, by the way. Completely illegal. Like nothing that they do. Also, where would they evacuate?
Certainly would be quite an escalation.
Welcome to the occupied West Bank. We're in the Palestinian village of Beta. The tear gas has begun unusually early today. These scenes have become a weekly ritual. Palestinians holding a small demonstration.
This you from like 2 years ago. I'm actually so scared about all of these videos, dude, because I feel like this is going to be straight up like there's going to be TOS in this. You know what I mean?
The word apartheid, what do you think of? Probably the disturbing images of racial segregation between whites and blacks in South Africa, where a regime ruled by a racist white minority declared themselves officially superior to the black majority, then proceeded to dominate them. South Africa's apartheid.
The haircut wasn't it, Hasan. Got to keep it real. I know, dude. I know. Listen, re-reacting. I'm not going to re-react, but like, obviously, I'm saying the same exact shit that I was saying now that back then, pre-October 7.
After Friday prayers.
Yeah, 15-minute video, 1 hour react. Good numbers.
Israeli soldiers firing tear gas down at them.
Palestinians have been protesting like this for years and years, but if anything, the situation for them on the ground is only getting more and more difficult. The Israeli army becoming more and more uncompromising, particularly since October the 7th.
At times, the Israelis shoot live bullets. More than a dozen people have been killed around Beta in the past few years, since demonstrations against a new nearby Israeli settlement began.
Like, remember, what's going on here is you have settlers coming in and bullying with the Israeli occupying force defense, bullying Palestinians out of their homes that they've lived in. Then they come in and they build a temporary housing on top of the area that they destroy. Palestinians protest that. The Israeli occupying force comes in and shoots them and kills them, and then you rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And also, these settlers are not always coming from, you know, nearby regions either. Most of these guys are also coming from like America and other places.
Settlers here, they stole our land, and every Friday we come here just to pray peacefully. But they don't want even this. They don't want this. They shoot us, as you know, as you see.
We leave Beta and head to the settlement they're protesting against.
The International Court of Justice has said that all Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank should be dismantled. If anything, they're actually expanding more rapidly than ever before. We're on our way now to Eviatar, which is one of the newest ones.
Named after a settler killed by Palestinians nearby, Eviatar was founded by ultra-hardline activists who see themselves as pioneers on land promised to them by God.
I think the ICC should expand its arrest warrants away from just simply Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant and expand it to other Israeli administration officials as well, especially since the ICJ considered settlements to be an act of war and a violation of human rights. The ICC should also put settlers on that same front, okay, and start putting out arrest warrants for some officials, for example, officials like Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, but then even beyond that, beyond Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, settlers with dual nationality. There's a lot of settlers with dual citizenship, okay? They have family members back in the West in Rome Statute nations. Not all of them are from America. America doesn't abide by the Rome Statute. Doesn't matter. America doesn't abide by the ICC or the ICJ's decisions unless it's one that goes along with American foreign policy interests. For example, when it's like, Russia, right? So in that process, yeah, if they fly back to see their family members, boom, arrest them. That's it. They're war criminals. Arrest them for the war crimes that they're engaging in. Let's see what works. Let's see what happens, Let's see what the happens. What's America going to do? Are they actually going to invade The Hague for some random settler, dude? Go ahead, dude. It would collapse the international order that they are desperately trying to cling on to. It already is, by the way, but this would be the final strike.
Outpost was initially even considered illegal under Israeli law, but it was recognized by the state last month, along with several others. Israel's far-right finance minister visited to congratulate Eviatar's residents.
Oh, you would support George Bush getting arrested then? The U.S. did it too? Oh my God, I'm gonna nut, dude. Are you kidding me?
Bezalel Smotrich, himself a settler, is spearheading efforts to fully annex the West Bank. For the settlers constructing these ramshackle homes, they're reclaiming a Jewish ancestral and spiritual homeland and protecting it.
At the moment we're 15, we're going to be 20 by the end of the summer.
Malkiel is Eviatar's head of security.
But the settlements that you're building here, they make a Palestinian state.
This is just straight Rhodesia shit, by the way. Straight up, like, it's crazy.
A two-state solution, impossible practically, but I guess that's part of the aim. Is
well,
that right?
I'll ask you, if you have a Palestinian state here, who will protect Tel Aviv from being rocketed?
Well, the army.
Apparently,
the army.
The army? Well, as long as we hear the army here. If you take the Palestinians seriously and you take the Hamas seriously and you hear what they're saying, they're talking about from the river to the sea.
That's effectively your slogan. From the river to the sea should be all Israel.
Well, it was. It was much more, actually.
Around 700,000 settlers now live in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem, most in large enclaves like this. The West Bank was seized by Israel in the 1967 war. Internationally, it's all considered to be Palestinian land, key to any future Palestinian state. Since the 1990s, more urban areas have been partially controlled by the Palestinian Authority, the rest by the Israeli military. But the territory is now dotted with Israeli settlements widely considered illegal. And over the past 2 years, under Israel's current hardline government, they've seen unprecedented growth. Emboldened by allies in the heart of Israel's government, violence by settlers targeting Palestinians has been rising sharply. This was an attack earlier this month where homes and cars were set alight and one man killed. But the settlers see themselves as the victims. Stabbing and shooting attacks by Palestinians had been growing more frequent even before October the 7th. And with the
2023 was the deadliest year for Palestinian children, according to Euromed, an article that came out on October 6th, as a matter of fact.
Occupation entrenched and deadly Israeli army raids ramping up. Grassroots support in the West Bank for Hamas is soaring.
I had a friend in high school that was Israeli and came to Texas for a year. In 2014, he said Netanyahu will be the next Hitler, even back then, hoping he hasn't been conscripted for his madness, for this madness. I mean, that's the thing. Like, people that used to say Netanyahu's Hitler, a sentiment that, like, many Israelis actually recognized, completely dropped that shit. Or just basically started saying, well, our version of Hitler is good, actually. It's a necessary evil. So many people's brains got completely broken.
There's no other rhetoric or discourse coming either from Israel, from the US, from the UK, from Europe that will actually push a solution to the conflict here. So at the end, even if you're not radical or you're moderate, resistance comes as that solution. And that's why Hamas now has a lot of popularity in the West Bank.
And the growing support for Hamas, Israelis would see that as a major security concern.
Again, that's the problem with Israel, is that it creates the problem and then, accuses you of supporting Hamas. Hamas is just a new variant of an old tradition in Palestine. How do we solve the problem of losing our land? How do we solve the problem of a military occupation?
Several thousand Israeli settlers once occupied parts of Gaza. But to their fury, they were forced out by their own army close to 2 decades ago as it withdrew from the territory. Now some see the current war as a chance to fight.
Went back to your channel and noticed that literally nothing changed from 2021. Even your commentary relating to Biden. Yeah, where people are at, but something that helped me when I was learning more about Palestine a few years ago was reading about the everyday mechanisms of control the Palestinians deal with, from roads to water to ID cards. Thought I'd share. Some people are more equal than others. This is kind of funny because, like, this is from 2021, right? And it's like, literally, look at my hair. What was I doing? Literally, I use similar infographics still to this fucking day because nothing has changed.
Finally moved back. We're in a small tent site not far from the border with Gaza. It might look like a bohemian summer camp, complete with family-friendly activities. But this is an unabashed radical fringe, backed ideologically by senior far-right members of government, that believes Gaza is Jewish land. On Yosef's neck, a tattoo of a band.
That's a Jewish power tattoo.
And extremist group. For him, the death and destruction.
That's literally a Nazi tattoo, by the way. Like Jewish Defense League. Like that right there, that tattoo is the exact same as, like, it's like the Jewish swastika, basically. Straight up, is a terror cell. They've killed people in America. That's not even a joke.
What in Gaza represents an opportunity to take it over.
When I say this, like, I'm letting you know. When I say this is straight up a Nazi tattoo, like, I mean it. Every now and then, you'll have a bunch of weirdos, like Nazis, online post, like, videos, right? They'll post videos of, like, some Jewish dudes sitting in a room talking about how, like, the goyim are cattle or whatever, right? And they'll be like, see, this is what the Jews believe. And it's always the same, like, 8 videos. These are the guys who say shit like that. Like, it is a Jewish supremacist ideology. And it's ironic because, like, the people posting those videos are literally fascists. They're just anti-Semitic fascists. So they hate the other side of the equation for the exact same principles. It's like, it's kind of similar to how, like, Republicans will be like, oh, we don't want that Muslim shit here. They're backwards. We don't want that Muslim shit here. They're backwards. They're groomers. They want to do child brides. And it's like, bro, you want to do child brides. You know what I mean? You're just mad, I guess, because in your mind, you think, like, Muslims also want to do it. It's literally, like, fascists that hate and claim that, like, all Jews believe in, like, Jewish supremacy, ironically have white supremacist attitudes, and they're just projecting their own hatred against one subgroup that has the exact same ideology that they do. It's just the in-group is different. Yeah, that's why I always say conservatives hate conservatives in other countries. They hate it.
אני ישנתי בלילה בלי סק"ש ולא בתוך אוהל. תנאי שטח. אנחנו מבינים שעם כל החום והזבובים והכל, כשניכנס לעזה, בעזרת השם, יהיה הרבה יותר קשה מבחינת תנאי השטח. אז פה זה רק הכנה קטנה.
In the camp, the orange color of the movement flies high. Some soldiers.
This is a great video for beginners. She builds up the evidence really effectively. Astronomy has a colonialism problem. Dog, this is a 3-hour video on astronomy and colonialism. I'm sure it's a great video, but if you think that I'm going to watch a 3-hour video on astronomy and colonialism, you're crazy. Like, come on. I'm sure it's a great video, but like, I sit here and I watch 15-minute video. You just saw an example of me reacting to a 15-minute video and cutting an hour of content off of it. How long do you think it would take me to react to a 3-hour video?
Soldiers fighting in Gaza have posted photos online with the flag too, though Israel's leadership insists there's no prospect of re-establishing the settlements. Ariel believes it will happen and hopes to be amongst the first to move to Gaza. She came to Israel 7 years ago from Texas.
The idea of you coming from America to here, settling in potentially in Gaza, kicking Palestinians out, a lot of people would see that as settler colonialism.
It's not really colonialism, it's a return. My grandparents were kicked out of Israel by Arabs who were trying to establish a Palestinian state, and they had to leave for their survival, and I'm just coming back and fulfilling their dream. That would be the first thing. The second thing is, I think that, and I know this is a minority view, I think colonialism gets a bad rap. Like, genocide is bad, but colonizing places that are genocidal and they have bad ideology, it's good to come in and correct their views.
What do you think should happen to the people who are already in Gaza?
Colonialism gets a bad rap, says the person engaging in colonialism. Bro, I'm telling you, dude, there's nothing. The greatest antidote to like anyone that carries on any kind of positive sentiment towards Israel is to just show them someone from there in an unrestricted format. The anti-Zionist Jewish Israelis in this chat will confirm this as well. Just literally put a camera on. Just show them. It's the classic no politics here moment.
No, I'm just talking about football. I'm just talking about football. No politics here. Okay? Free Palestine.
That's it. Just literally listen. They'll tell you straight up. Like the things that so many people say, especially the settlers in 2024, are things that you've only previously heard in history books. Like these justifications for genocide, these justifications for apartheid, these justifications for mass slaughter. The only time you ever heard stuff like this is in like prior centuries. You see it in your history books, like people that legitimately have this kind of attitude. This person is no different than a Klansman, like straight up. What are we doing here? Like this is Nazism through and through, okay? This is fascism through and through. That's it. Colonialism gets a bad rap. We're just civilizing these brutes is exactly the basis behind Manifest Destiny and the way that like Americans did and conducted an indigenous genocide. The difference is that happened already and we know what that looked like. We know how horrifying that is, especially in terms of her own personal history, her own personal background as a Jewish person. The same arguments that she is applying to Palestinians and Arabs, the dehumanization, the same arguments that she's applying in terms of finding living space for herself on someone else's land is exactly what the Nazis justified the Holocaust with, is exactly the foundational basis as to why her ancestors were shipped into concentration camps. It is ridiculous and it is mind-boggling that we are not even like one generation removed. There are still Holocaust survivors that are around. It blows my mind that it did not take much. It didn't even take a century to just do that exact same thing.
It's good to come in and correct their views.
What do you think should happen to the people who are already in Gaza?
So I think that there's a couple of possibilities. The one that I think is the most realistic is we got to ask other countries for help. I know that Spain was willing to take a couple of million. I know Russia said they would take a couple of thousand.
To a lot of people, that would sound like you're advocating for ethnic cleansing.
I don't think so, because Palestinian isn't an ethnicity, it's an ideology, and it's an ideology that says that they want Jews dead, and so we want them as far away from Jews as possible.
Like, this person is a paranoid schizophrenic in terms of like her worldview, except people that have that exact same opinion are making policy choices in Israel. Some of those choices are the maintenance and current existing occupation of territories that do not belong to them. Other policies, such as committing a genocide in Gaza. She's like, no, Palestinian is not an ethnicity. You don't understand. It's an ideology, and an ideology that is built around the mass slaughter of Jews. That's what she said. Like, there is no nation there. You can't do an ethnic cleansing to a group of people who I've decided are collectively genocidal. That's why we need to do a genocide to them before they do a genocide to us. Zionism is an ideology. Palestinian is an ethnic group. Yes, absolutely. Every single talking point that you hear from Zionists is pure projection, from human shields all the way down to they want to genocide us, so we have to genocide them first. It's pure projection. And we have heard this time and time again throughout horrifying parts of American history, horrifying parts of global history, world history, dark chapters in our collective history where people have had this exact same attitude. We can't free the slaves because they will enslave us. We can't have full equality because if they do, they'll take away our liberties and our rights. They'll treat us like we've treated them. We can't give Ireland back to the Irish. We must continue occupying it. We can't abolish the apartheid in South Africa because they will do an apartheid to us. It's always the same shit. Is Reddit down? Dude, I don't know. What a silly question. Why are you asking me, a guy who rarely ever goes on Reddit? Ask me if Twitter is down, I could tell you. But describing pogroms against Palestinian villages and literal ethnic cleansing as gaining land and winning power is insane. Real estate and religion category 2? Come on. From The Economist, Israel settlers are winning unprecedented power from the war in Gaza. They're gaining land and sway over the army, police, and politics.
From America to here, settling in potentially in Gaza, kicking Palestinians out. A lot of people would see that as settler colonialism.
It's not really colonialism, it's a return. My grandparents were kicked out of Israel by Arabs who were trying to establish a Palestinian state, and they had to leave for their survival, and I'm just coming back and fulfilling their dream. That would be the first thing. The second thing is, I think that...
Sorry, your grandparents' dreams sucked ass, and you suck ass. I don't give a fuck about your grandparents' dreams. I don't give a fuck about your dreams. If your dreams require the mass ethnic cleansing of Palestinians for it to be realized, okay? Get better dreams.
Sound like you're advocating for ethnic cleansing?
I don't think so, because Palestinian isn't an ethnicity, it's an ideology, and it's an ideology that says that they want Jews dead, and so we want them as far away from Jews as possible.
You can kill them all then, dude, you know? Yeah, Judaism is not an ethnicity, it's just an ideology that wants can destroy Germany that belongs to the wonderful folk. Is exactly the same argument that Nazis had. I feel like something happened along the way where, like, do we just not educate people on the Holocaust, including Jewish people? Like, what's going on? Do people think that, like, there wasn't a deliberate effort to dehumanize Jews in Germany before people basically arrived at the conclusion that they must be sent to camps? Like, do people think that there is just like, do people think that it happened overnight? Like, it was just, oh yeah, dude, yeah, yeah, this is great, actually. Yeah, no, I think Jews are wonderful people, but we should still fucking ship them to camps. Is that how that happened? No, they had their own version of the rationale, you know, which is identical to this psycho's rationale. Like, how is this? Like, it makes no sense. Just think for like 3 seconds. Think about it. Please think about it. The very same mechanisms and the very same cycle of dehumanization that is occurring in Israel on a daily basis, that occurs in every like Zionist institution that churns out this kind of like anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim sentiment, anti-Muslim propaganda, is being conducted with the deliberate intent to make people feel this way, that like Palestinians are basically hiding in every corner and they're controlling all the, you know, they're dying in a telegenic way to make people feel sympathetic to them.
Possible.
The would-be settlers take us to the Erez crossing. It used to be the gateway into Gaza. The area has been closed off by Israeli soldiers, but the group is waved through. They've planted 2 small lemon trees here as symbols of their claims over this land. Just saplings, but the settlers have seen how over the years their efforts bear fruit.